Well, so I wouldn't want to leave you with just one impression of Bill Greenfield's prowess as an Adirondack character. And of course, I assumed that, like Paul Bunyan and Pecos Bill, he was just a made-up character. But as I read more stories, and I'd see one collection or another, I came across something that said that he was from the town of Edinburgh, which is in Saratoga County. So that was consistent with upstate New York and, you know, Adirondack character and stuff like that. But I still wasn't convinced that he was a real person, and I'll leave that as the cliffhanger for today. But one story that I came across that actually had an introduction that said that he was buried in the Clarkville Cemetery. Now, again, if you're going to establish credibility for a tall tale, you know, this is, you know, he's in the town of Edinburgh. Right, it's Clarkville Cemetery. I didn't even know at the time if there was a place called Clarkville or a Clarkville Cemetery. So he made some of his living as an Adirondack guide. And he had a particular customer from New York City who would come up periodically, you know, a couple times a year even, and go hunting and fishing. They became very good friends. And over the campfire one night, this fellow from New York City is bragging about the really terrific restaurants in New York City. And it's such a shame, Bill, that you live up here in the woods and there's no restaurants like that. You know, and I'll tell you, my favorite meal in one of those restaurants is frog's legs, and they're mighty expensive. You couldn't probably afford them, Bill, but it's the best meal you ever had. And Bill looks at him, askance. I don't do askance very well. He looks askance. He says, "What, you pay for frog's legs? Well, you come up here in the spring, and I'll get you all the frog's legs you can eat." Well, the guy can't resist, so he schedules a visit with Bill, and he comes up the following spring, and they head out when it's still dark out. Cold morning. The ice has left the lakes and ponds, but it's very chilly. And Bill tells this guy, "Now you lay down here on the ground next to this little pond," and they can hear the frogs croaking around the pond. And he says, "You take this rock," and he hands him a good hand-sized rock, and he says, "Now, when I give you the signal, you take that rock and you smash it down on this boulder." And here's this, you know, you can just see the crown of this boulder coming up over the grass. When I give you the signal, you smash that hand rock into that boulder. And Bill stands there, and he's got this big, long, sharp knife in his arm that he's holding out. And they're just kind of poised like that, and it's dark, and you can see the sun beginning to creep up over the horizon. Now you know that scientifically, that's how Bill would say it, scientifically, you know that it's coldest just after the sun rises, because all night long on a cloudless night like tonight, the earth is radiating out heat, and once the sun comes up, the earth is still losing heat until the sun is strong enough to have a net heat gain. It's coldest after sunrise. And so they're waiting there. And finally, just as the sun is coming up, Bill gives the signal, and this guy from New York City, he takes that hand rock and he pounds the boulder in the ground and makes this great thud, and the ground vibrates. And all the frogs that are grouped around the pond jump into the water just as a thin film of ice forms over the little pond. And Bill takes his razor-sharp knife and skims it along the ice, and those little frog legs stuck in the ice, all cut off. They had a nice meal of frog's legs for breakfast. I told you it was a little more violent.